Hey guys, this is Coach Mike Ryan from the Fastball USA Training Center, and thank you for opting into your free backside power hitting report. This is about timing, and very specifically timing with your backside and not your front side. If those coaches out there are telling you to get your front foot down early, I would suggest to you run the other way. I know that sounds extreme, but there's no doubt that I have found, even hitters who are doing this without even knowing it, their power is going down because their front foot is coming down too quickly. Or another way to say it is they do not have proper control off their back leg. They cannot time up their backside, therefore they're losing power, or they're leaking power is another way to say it. What starts to happen is they may make contact, but they have limited adjustability. So when they go to off-speed pitches, they have a hard time adjusting to off-speed as well. So we should be able to, if you're doing this right, you should be able to hit the fastball harder, and you should be able to adjust to off-speed pitches better. So let's first talk about front side. You probably have felt this before. So the first example I use is if you're in the batting cages. Everybody's experienced this. You've had that moment where you kind of get that front foot down off a pitching machine and you kind of do that kind of like step and that stutter step. That would be an exaggerated feel of what a front side timing means. When that front foot comes down and you're not ready to swing. Because it's a very natural thing for you to want to swing when your front foot lands. And hitting coaches are telling you out there not to do that. So you've been in the batting cages where you're off a pitching machine, your front foot comes down, and then the other thing that happens as your front foot comes down, your hands want to leak forward early. And when they leak forward early, what starts to happen is you're cheating a little bit to be on time on a fastball, but you're not on time with the fastball with more power, you're just getting there with contact. Then when somebody changes speeds, because your hands are also going forward, what starts to happen? You have limited adjustability. You are easily fooled. So if the extreme to that is that foot steps and then steps again. That's that double step we see in the batting cage. Now, what I did here, hopefully you can see this pretty good, is I put two versions of Josh Donaldson down. One on the right-hand side, you're going to notice Donaldson gets his front foot down plenty early and then actually takes a second step. And over here, there is no second step. So let's take a look at it. So the verse on this right one, you're going to notice Donaldson, he go ahead and steps, and then from a moment steps again. So what he's been doing here, he was practicing getting his front foot down, and whether he knew it or not, it resulted in like a second movement. And what this tells me is this is very unnatural. He got his front foot down and then wanted to go again. Here, you'll notice that he goes with a higher leg kick and times up his backside and hits this ball out of the park. So here he's late, here he's on time. So why was he late? The exact thing people are telling you to be on time is get your front foot down early does not necessarily mean that you will be on time. Matter of fact, what I find, it's a disruption in momentum. That's why you're losing power. Your front foot lands, you're losing momentum. It stops and then starts again. All right, so you stop in the middle of your motion and then try to get your hands going. That's a disruption in your timing. So Josh Donaldson, this didn't work for. He struggled a lot in the big leagues until he started figuring out on his own. Timing is with your backside. Now, this is just another visual example. Bryce Harper in college versus pro. And you'll notice as his hips turn, his foot is landing. It's his back hip that ignites putting the foot down. I'll say that again. It's his back hip that ignites putting the foot down. Watch how his foot lands, and his back hip is already engaging. It's engaging putting the foot on the ground. The hip and the foot should feel like it's landing almost at the same time on your most powerful swing. So it's in a sense, as my hip starts to engage, my foot starts to land, and I want to feel like that is one fluid motion. Now, where's a more an exaggerated example? You're going to see his hips actually start to clear. Actually, he's going to start to uncoil his hips before his foot hits the ground. So the uncoiling of the hips happened before foot plant. Now, guys, this is something most people screw up because they'll see something like this. We call this the Pujols method, which now Ohtani is very popular for using this, where he goes no leg kick. But Ohtani will coil up his hip and just have his toe on the ground. His heel will be up. He coils his hips. The heel staying up is, again, the definition of getting the foot down is getting the entire foot down. Here, Pujols lives his heel up, and then you'll notice is as he's swinging, his hips start to turn and his heel starts to drop at the same time. Meaning your power, your timing is your back hip igniting to the baseball. It's your back hip going to the baseball. It's not put your foot down and then try to get your back hip going. Now remember, that would be an interruption in momentum, and momentum equals power. So again, even in a Tani method or Pujols method, the heel stays up. When that heel will drop, it's because the back hip starts to go. So the question is, are you timing the ball with your front side or are you timing it with your back side? Now here's another visual, and you're going to notice Harper's foot is not on the ground until right about there. And you come back up here, you'll notice his hips start to uncoil, which puts his foot on the ground. So his hips are uncoiling, foot lands. Hips uncoiling, foot lands. Hips uncoiling, foot lands. And now, last thing is look where the ball is. Look where the ball is when his foot's in the air. Here again, once again, foot in the air, ball's there. That is definitely not getting the front foot down early. So it's not about necessarily having a high leg kick. It is about really timing up your backside and getting really good at it. So now here's another example. At this spot right here, Bryce Harper's foot is not down. His hips are coiled. You can see a lot of his back pocket. Look where the ball is. So those out there are saying the key to timing is getting your front foot down early. At very least, it's a misunderstood concept. Of course your front foot's got to get down on time. Of course that's got to happen. But what is on time? There's a lot of people out there that are kind of leading people to believe that front foot's got to get down when that ball is about 30 feet away from home plate, and nothing could be further from the truth. Look where this ball is. Look where his front foot is. His hips are coiled. So what's his next movement? He's going to uncoil his hips, which will put the foot down at the same time. Take a look at this. Watch the hips uncoil. As the hips uncoil, the foot goes down. As the hips uncoil, the foot goes down. This is a really critical point when it comes to hitting. Now, here's just another example of this. As this turns, this will land. As this starts to turn. When I say turn, I mean as it starts to uncoil. It's not that he's flying open. It's just his hips are coiled and then will start to uncoil. As soon as they start to uncoil, the foot will hit the ground. This is an example of a take. You'll see how the hips start to get engaged there. Right here, he coils. As soon as he uncoils, that foot hits, and then he puts the brakes on. Which, by the way, if you're out there thinking, okay, how can this help me? If you're timing the ball with your backside, number one, like I said before, there's more power. Number two, there's more adjustability to off-speed pitches, and part of that adjustability is also laying off pitches you don't like. Now, one of the things that constrains people's power is when their front foot lands, almost naturally their hands want to leak forward. This is the natural part of hitting. And when that lands too early, now you have to fight keeping your hands back. It becomes an unnatural thing. You could train it, you could certainly train it, but it's not a natural thing to keep your hands back as your foot is landing. You have to, in a sense, really be disciplined. Now, once your front foot lands, and if there's too much delay, this becomes an issue. So not only are you going to hit it with more power, adjust the softer pitching better, you're also going to be able to lay off bad pitches. Now, here's just another example of timing. There's two parts. This first part we call the dance. And the dance, the hitter is watching handbrake, so he starts to load as the pitcher's hands separate. Now, the key is that's all awfully well and good, but now he's got to learn how to ride his back leg and really find that he can't just pick up his foot and put it down at the same time every pitch. And that's where most of you go wrong. You'll pick up your foot and put it down at the same tempo every single pitch, which means some of your best hits, you need to give more credit to the pitcher because the pitcher's actually hitting your bat. You want to make sure as you're loading up that you're not putting your foot down at the same tempo. You're adjusting your timing with the baseball. So the leg going up is one thing, coming back down is another. So here, a general rule of thumb, we want to be at the peak of the leg lift by the time the pitcher's, before the ball leaves the pitcher's hand. And then it's a controlled movement off the back leg. It's a controlled movement off the back leg. It's not just pick the leg up and get it back down as fast as possible. So here's a little visual of the dance. You'll notice hands separate, he starts to load. Right about there, hands separate, he starts to load. We'll go more into that in another report. One of the drills that we do that for controlling the back leg is what we call a jump back. Not a step back, but a jump back. We want the hitter literally jumping into his back leg, controlling his weight shift forward, going back into the ball. So it's not a rushed movement. We want to load slow and transfer, load slow and transfer. So I would describe this as a tempo of a fastball. So he's loading as the arm's coming up, ready, go. And that's what we have the hitters usually say out loud, ready, go, as they're making, practicing controlling the load into their back leg. That's one drill we like to use. Now, here are some red flags if you have poor backside timing. Number one, if foot plant happens early, it tends to destroy power. So if you're struggling with power, this is something we got to look at. We got to look at, is your weight transferring too quickly? Is that front foot landing too fast? Foot plant happens early, which forces the hands to go first. Now, as you've heard probably many times, the hips are supposed to go before the hands. But guys who have a tendency to get this down also tend to leak. They have a leak the hands forward, or the elbow starts to leak downwards, and that takes away from the power, but also your adjustability on breaking ball. The ability to adjust off-speed pitches is very difficult, which we just discussed, and late on a fastball, early on a breaking ball. Now, people would say, well, what is that? People are trying to sell you on if your front foot gets down, that makes you on time on a fastball. But we're finding it's the exact opposite. My front foot lands, there's a delay. Say that ball's 30 feet away, so I get here, I stop, and then I got to try to catch up. It's actually interrupting my timing. So it's making, the very thing that they're telling you is making you on time is actually making you late. I get down and there's an eruption, and then I try to get it going again. That's one. Now the second thing of the breaking ball, it makes you early. Why? Because when your front foot lands, now it's extra hard to keep the hands back. So now you land and you're getting way out there. So I know that's completely different than what most of you have heard, but the reason why we've had 45, 100-mile-an-hour hitters in here, and it's well over 400 guys hit a ball and throw a ball over 90, is understanding these concepts. Now, I will close this with backside timing so you to understand this. It's important that you adjust your tempo and practice tempo adjustment. So, for example, on a fastball, we talk about the loading process being what we call ready, go. And the ready's never rush. It's not ready, go. It's ready, go. But on a fastball, that tempo will get a little longer. So say I'm on a slider. So instead of being ready, go, it may be ready, go, where you hold ready a little longer, which is telling you that you're holding your weight into your back leg longer, okay? That might be a slider tempo. And then you may have even a slower tempo on a slow breaking ball. Ready, go. And what I'm telling you is exact opposite of what you've heard. I want to delay front foot landing, meaning I'm trying to hold hang time on my front leg. I'm trying to hold it so I could put all of my pop and power from my backside. So, with that said, this is tempo adjustment. So you notice McCutchen, as his front foot is landing, his back hip starts to turn now, and his foot hits the ground. So there's got to be adjustment in tempo and timing. We can't put our front foot down on the ground at the same tempo every pitch. This is a breaking ball that Mike Trout is fooled on. I want you to notice where the pitch is. His foot is not on the ground. So he's trying to delay the foot from landing, and then he adjusts to the ball. So he's delaying the front foot landing. Watch it again. Look where the ball is. Look where his foot is, not on the ground. So he's holding it and then adjusting to it. Okay? Just like a good example, if you went in the batting cage and I said, I'm going to throw you curveballs, you would almost naturally start to adjust your tempo knowing that I'm going to throw you a curveball. Now, if you don't know you're getting a curveball and you're just picking your foot up and putting it down at the same time because you're thinking, I'm getting a fastball, now you come up, you go back down, now the power starts to leak out. So sometimes for some of you out there, what you need to do is get into a cage with somebody in front of you doing a lot of slow toss so you can learn how to ride this and learn how to adjust there. When I'm finding college baseball is filled with this, high school baseball is now doing it, it's a ton of machine work. And I'm not against machines, but what the cheat off the machine is, guys are trying to just put their foot on the ground and then cheat their hands going to the ball. It's actually disrupting your ability to drive the ball. I know that sounds crazy. Think about this. 85% of the power is supplied by the hitter, not the pitcher. Everybody tells you the faster he throws, the harder he hits. That's not true. It's actually, the stats say it was last year that 6 of the top 8 exit velocities in Major League Baseball came on pitches that were thrown below 90 miles an hour. Below 90 miles per hour. So what does this tell you? Big league hitters are supplying the power. It's not the guys throwing 102 that those balls aren't being hit the hardest. It's the balls throwing 82 sliders that are being hit the hardest. Why? Because big league hitters are good at this. Here's another example. Look where the ball is. Look where his front leg is. And watch how he adjusts through there. So this is, again, look where the ball is. Look where his leg is. He's delaying the foot from landing and then exploding on the ball. And it's about backside timing. So there's another way to do the jump back drill that you could try out here. And the first one was jumping back going, ready, go. The second one is with another second delay. So it's delayed a little longer. So this same drill. So that's a 1 second delay. And here's with a 2 second delay. You can see the difference of the first one versus the second one. The second one, he's holding it. It's harder, a little longer. And I guess one of the reasons why I'm showing you this, and specifically in these two, even though he's hitting off a tee on this video, he's actually practicing tempo adjustment even off a tee. He's practicing, yes, timing off of a tee. So he's trying to time, hold the backside, and turn and rotate into the baseball. This is 2 second delay. So if we were saying ready, go on both of these, let's go back to the fastball tempo. Ready, go. Now the next one, it's going to be, that's still fastball tempo. Now we'll look at ready, go. And you're trying to adjust to the tempo. So now to close this out on your power hitting report was another drill that I'd like to share with you in another time. We refer to it as our samurai drill, where hitters really stand up on one leg and they coil their hips and they really learn how to ride the backside. But here's a few things to think about in terms of your timing. Who are you? And that's what we do in our program. Understand who you are. So the next step here, what I would do is get on a call with you, and we would go through your game tendencies, okay? Everybody's game tendencies is different. So it's not about taking the explosive hitting system and teaching it to you as much as it is personalizing the program to you. So, for example, are you late on a fastball or are you early on a fastball, right? So here's the things that we'd be asking you, trying to figure out is your tendency to be late or is your tendency to be early, right? Is your tendency to get around the ball or is your tendency to push the ball? Because depending what your tendency is, you need something different. So your tendency is late. You may need to see plus fastballs at shorter reaction times, meaning if you have a late tendency, you're having a hard time getting the bat head out in front. You're having a hard time getting the hip to time up the baseball in a sense. So we would change your work to shorter reaction times. We may also go to heavy bat, longer bat, depending on what your tendency is. And then we may also take on an angle of BP to show you how we would do BP would maybe different. Now, if you're, say, your tendency to be early, we may go to slower pitches, give you more reaction time. So a lot of times when guys are early, they're early because they want to get their front foot down early, and the harder somebody throws, they'll tell you, oh, yeah, I like that better. But that is actually, in truth, exposing their inability to adjust and actually keep power into their back hip because we want to time it, again, with their backside. You might go to slower pitches, give you more reaction time, 3 slow ones to 1 normal one, then 2 slow ones to 1 normal one. Then shorten the bat or lighten the bat. Why? Somebody who tends to be early on the ball will then tend to want to pull off the ball. When we put a shorter bat or a lighter bat in their hands, it is forcing them to adjust and try to track the ball a little longer with their front side before they explode on their backside. This is just an example. So to get you really where you need to go, this is not about taking somebody's system and implementing it just generally. It needs to be personalized. So the next step, we'll just get on a phone call and we're going to go through really 2 main things. Number 1, what is your game tendencies? And number 2, it's very helpful for me to see a video. And when I analyze the video and I look at your game tendencies, I could then take to those 2 areas and personalize a program towards you, which is very important, the personalization of the program. And in my remote training program, I am literally giving you day-to-day work to do. I'm following up with weekly check-ins. You get immediate access to the drills and the videos and what to do. And we check in each week to see how you're executing those. We continue with video analysis throughout the program and to make sure you're doing it right and doing it correctly. Now, that's what the program calls for. So typically, most of my athletes will train a minimum of 3 months, basically 90 days in that area. That's the minimum, and it's a 3 to 4 month at a time typically. Now, some will dive into a whole year, but for most guys, I want to make sure they're seeing the results almost right away, and you should. Now, some of this is measurable. You should be able to see if you're making improvement. You should see improvement in exit velocity. You should see an improvement in on-time contact. Whether you're in a cage, you should be seeing a lot more balls being driven back up the middle of a cage. If you went on a field, you should notice, regardless of where the ball is going, it's going further than it ever did before. These are measurables that you could start to put into your game. So next step, send a message, click the button below, and get on a call with me, and we will take the next step, which is personalization, and let's look at your game tendencies. I will analyze your video, put even comparisons to big leaguers, and create a program for you, and then we could discuss going into a 90-day training program to get you going in the direction so you can make more on-time, powerful contact. Again, click the message below, or you can shoot me an email, fastballusa@hotmail.com, and let you get you timing the ball with your backside more often and more consistency to hit with more power, adjust off-speed pitches better. This is Coach Ryan at Fastball USA. If you have any questions, let me know. DM me, let's get on a call, and let's start you on our 90-day program to get you started.